All right, recruits, mail call. Perhaps I'm one of the last to know what that is. Maybe they still do that. Maybe it's a lot less now with electronic communication. Cell phones existed when I joined the Marine Corps, but back in the old woodland camo and polishing your black boots days, we really look forward to mail call when we got to get a letter from a pretty girl or a package from home and write a letter from our own hand and send it and receive one in return. Just a brief aside, if you got somebody special in your life and you want to do something special for them, instead of just a card or something, write them a letter, maybe. Call me old school, but hey. Anyway, today, got a lot of questions. I checked. These are coming from Spotify. Got a lot of questions. So it might be a part 1 and a part 2, but saddle up for mail call. Gather around this virtual campfire. Sit Indian style if you want. Open up a bottle of Hops number 9 for some ambiance. Anyway, I'm going to put in a rapid fire bio because I reckon that many of you listening are familiar with the podcast. Rapid fire, real quick, and then we'll get into these questions. Blessed to have served in the military, law enforcement, combat veteran, private contractor, competition shooter, lifelong hunter, guide. Blessed by God that He got me through all those things so I could share this firsthand training, knowledge, experience with you to serve you today. Let's dive into the podcast. So, this is a comment. This is from MAWI, The Great Lie of Big Camo. Laughing out loud. Loved this episode. Hey, I appreciate you. I'm a verbal affirmation kind of guy, and I appreciate the kudos there. Yeah, and to think that like the deer this year are going to see you in the camo you wore last year and just laugh at you and just skirt away. But if you wear the brand new Gucci camo of this year that some gun influencer is pushing, that you're just going to sneak up on them, eating your Cheetos, drinking your Diet Coke, they're never going to know you're there and you're going to pop them in the face. That's not how it works. I think this is a quote from Fred Bear. The best camo is shut up, be quiet, and don't move, or something like that. But patience and skill is really important. You know, pair of khaki pants and a plaid flannel shirt, if you're good at fieldcraft, will get most things done. And there's a time and a place for camo, for like turkey hunting and things like that. But even then, subdued natural colors generally work. So I appreciate that comment. I appreciate you. Let's chug along here. This next one, this is from Corbin Bennett. Top 5 gun arsenal accessories for the rest of your life. Serve as hunting, home defense, CCW, survival, and whatever else the world might throw at you. Alright, so this probably should be its own episode, and I've done like battery episodes before. But, numero uno, Mossberg 590S, 12-gauge shotgun, cover a multitude of contingencies from a dove to a grizzly bear to home defense to truck gun. It's the most versatile tool. Not specifically that gun, but a 12-gauge shotgun. The most versatile tool, the 590S, will let you shoot the short shells. It is a utilitarian multi-tool of survival. Pair that with a good fighting handgun of your choice. For me, it would probably be either a SIG 226 or a Beretta 92 of some flavor, some fashion. Good, get it done. You know, war-proven, war-tested, gunfighter-approved kind of gun, and go metal and go hammer because just life is too short to just only have a polymer striker-fired handgun, let's be honest. A Ruger 1022, it is probably the standard. Ruger 1022 takedown stainless, because if you can go stainless, always go stainless. What I'm up to, 3. A 22 handgun. Go revolver if you want, but since I want to train on the cheap for my regular gun, I would go with a 22. The best one that I can think of is a Ruger Mark II 2245, and I might go the lightweight if I had to have it double as a bug-out gun, as a companion if I had to cover long distances on foot with my 1022 takedown. That brings us to number 4. Number 5. Scar 17, 308, crazy accurate. Not super lightweight, but 7.7 pounds. That's lighter weight than a lot of hunting rifles. And it's semi-automatic 308. If you want a battle rifle, you got it. If you want to press it into hunting service and you don't want to take the Mossberg because you're going a little bit longer range, you got it there. 308 super versatile. That's going to round out the 5-gun battery. That's a good question. Hopefully that answered your questions. I appreciate you, Bennett. Let's move along. The next one is not a kudos, but it is, I think, an important one. This person is not very happy I take it, and I don't take his question lightly, but let's get into it. He says, equating Jesus with killing is the most profane inversion. And here's the deal. Jesus is the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, I am a preacher. That is the flagship podcast, Simple Man Sermons. If you don't know, Jesus is the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The entire Word, from Genesis to Revelation. If a man sheds, this is just a few of the commandments. It is written, you shall not murder. Agreed. It is also, the shedding of blood is a very serious thing. Also, there are times when the shedding of blood is not only necessary, but prescribed. If a man sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. You'll find that in Genesis, I believe, chapter 9. You'll also find if a man is caught breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no guilt for his bloodshed. You'll also find many prescriptions for many crimes in the Bible is death. That means somebody has to kill that person. There's an entire thing called the Avenger of Blood. There's cities of refuge and the Avenger of Blood. You might want to look into that. Also, Jesus, when he was born of a virgin, lived a sinless life in human flesh. He was on a mission of salvation. If you read Revelation, he returns with wrath. And they cry out to the mountains, fall on us and hide us from the wrath of the Lamb. That wrath, that's a real thing. Jesus is God, and he has all the attributes of God. He is rich in mercy, the Bible says. He also has wrath. Hide us from the wrath of the Lamb. That Lamb is Jesus Christ. Let's not forget many of the great men and heroes of the Bible who were flawed men, and they were chastised for many things, but being great warriors was not one of them. David, a man after God's own heart. It was sung about him. He slayed his tens of thousands. Slayed tens of thousands. He killed bear. He killed lion. He killed Goliath. Went up to him and cut his head off with his own sword. That's savage. That's a man after God's own heart. And he was flawed, but he was never chastised for being a great warrior. How about David's 300 mighty men? How about Gideon? How about Samson, who again messed up, but he messed up with women. He didn't mess up for slaying a bunch of Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. And how about Jesus is God made flesh, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Hopefully you don't disagree with that sound kind of fundamental Christian doctrine. Exodus 15, the Lord is a man of war. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a violent man or be acquainted with violence or be a warrior to be a Christian, but I am saying those two are not mutually exclusive. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Well, let's move along to the next question. All right, back to more specific gun content. Not that the other one is not more important. And if that's a sincere question, I appreciate that. But this is from Todd Ruff. What are your thoughts on a Smith & Wesson Shield Plus and the SIG 365? I don't know if you're asking me to compare those two. I'll tell you my thoughts on the Micro 9. Man up and carry a full-size fighting handgun. Handguns are a compromise. They're better at almost nothing other than you can carry them on you. If you told me I was going to get into a gunfight to save somebody else's life, right? Going back to the last question, if there's an active shooter in a movie theater and I'm there, I don't go see many movies. I do want to go see the new Civil War movie, but it's been a couple of weeks and I haven't seen it yet, so who knows if I will or not. But if I'm in that movie theater and some, radical Islamic terrorist starts cutting people's heads off and shooting them with AKs, I would submit the most loving thing I could do is 2 to the chest, 1 to the head to that guy to help, rectify his behavior and stop him from killing women and children. Because it's not practical or socially accepted to walk around with an AR-15, probably the tool I'm going to have is a handgun. But handguns are better at almost nothing. If you told me I'm going to get in a gunfight and I can help it, I'm going to take a rifle or a shotgun depending on the situation. But unless it's some crazy scenario like I'm crawling through a tunnel, probably not taking a handgun. So handguns are already a compromise, and almost, with very few exceptions, a full-size fighting combat handgun is much more forgiving and much easier to shoot and much more effective than one of these micro 9s. So man up and carry a full-size fighting handgun. Now, if you can't, like you really can't, not I don't want to, not like it doesn't look good with my shoes and match my belt, like you really can't, both of those are good guns. Take them and shoot them, or go somewhere where you can rent them and train with them. I'll be honest, I probably think this, as much as I love Smith & Wesson M&P, I love them. I've won more shooting competitions with those than almost anything else. But the SIG 365 is probably your better bet. It's just more common, more ubiquitous, way more popular. You're going to be able to find a lot more holsters and things and magazines, probably more readily available. But you might find the other one suits you better. Again, that said, that's a compromise of a compromise if you can carry a full-size fighting handgun. But appreciate your question, Todd. This one is from Dylan. And Dylan, I'm trying to speak the truth in love. I think this is a sincere question. Do I have an episode for loadouts for wives and girlfriends? No. I have a couple episodes on like my wife's carry choices, but, you know, be a man and take care of wives and girlfriends and women and children in general. Now, I know in my entire life, and I've worked with many females, I know one that I would consider a gunfighter. Was like a top of the class, real like top of the class, out of 54, mostly men. There was a few women. But one that I would have considered pretty good when I was in the L.A.P. Police Academy. And shortly after we graduated, she got her skull cracked by somebody that decided they didn't have any qualms about going toe-to-toe with a female. And she was a pretty robust female. She was not a little twig. She got her skull cracked. A lot of other cultures do not have any qualms about, you know, hitting a woman the way that I do, or many of you probably do. So, to give you an idea, there are a few warrior women throughout history. There are a few, like Joan of Arc, Boudica of the, I forget what barbarian tribe she was fighting the Romans, but Boudica, there are very few. It's a lot more of a Disney thing of like the 90-pound female is going to take on savage space aliens and snap their necks. Like, that's not real. Like, I know of one. And maybe one day I will ask her to be on the show. She is a legit gunfighter. I would kick down a door with her any day. She's the one that I've met in my entire life for professional gunfighting. So their loadout should basically be a way to defend themselves and maybe back you up. So a carry gun and a gun that they're going to carry and shoot well. Unless they're the exception to the rule and they are that like one female gunfighter I've met in my entire adult life that's going to run a plate carrier and nods and she knows how to do speed reloads from a plate carrier. She's going to train with a war belt. Unless they're that one, loadout is not really the word that I would use. I would say get them proficient with the home defense weapon, their home defense weapon, and hopefully you can even get them to carry, because that's a struggle for getting a lot of women just to carry and be proficient with a gun. It's if you don't just want to be a hashtag me too, like person with a gun, you actually want to be a gunfighter, you want to be a gunfighter apprentice, you want to be in that world. That's a lifestyle. And not a lot of women are in that lifestyle. There's a lot of like gun bunnies and things like that, and they wear these like scandalous kind of semi-disgusting outfits and they have a gun. Like, there's a lot of that. But actual like true gunfighter women, yeah, so a loadout, get them to be proficient with a carry gun, get them to be reasonable with reasonable situations, get first, second, third round hits on target with a platform they're actually going to carry, and get them acquainted with the home defense firearm. That's what I would say on that, unless you just have that one. Can I do an episode on combat revolvers? Probably can, and I consider myself pretty well versed, and I know my way around a revolver, but I'm not an expert in revolvers. And I've been thinking about this because I do a lot of backcountry and a lot of backcountry carry, and the revolver has a lot of appeal there. But even there, and I often carry a revolver. as like my ultralight carry gun. Like when I am, working out in shorts without a belt, or like going to do wind sprints or something, I will carry a 357 Magnum J-frame revolver. But other than that, just a revolver's still good guns. Yeah. Do they still have their place? Yeah. But maybe I will do an episode of it, but I will tell you what I would consider the criteria for a modern combat revolver. 3 to 5 inch barrel. Tried carrying a 6 inch, it's just too long. 3 to 5 inch barrel. 6 shots or more of 357 Magnum, and there are other calibers, but 6 shots or more of 357 Magnum. Good, reputable manufacturer. Smith & Wesson, Colt, Kimber, Ruger, right? Double action, I don't think I need to say that, but I'm going to anyway. Double action that you train with a lot. And you practice reloads with a lot, because the odds of you having to reload if you are a good marksman are not high, even with a 6-shot revolver or a 7-shot revolver or an 8-shot revolver, but it's a lot higher than it would be for a pretty vanilla 15-round semi-auto. So practice that, practice your reloads. But those are the criteria I would consider for a modern combat revolver. I don't even know if I'd use that term. I'd say modern fighting revolver, because revolvers have pretty much been obsolete for militaries and combat for about 100 years. They're still okay for carry, for like an emergency fire extinguisher gun for carry. But for like actual like battlefield combat, who is issuing battlefield troops revolvers if they have any other choice? Again, that's been pretty obsolete. I know some people used them in World War II. I know the Webley revolvers are cool, but really, since the 1911, the revolver for combat has been pretty obsolescent and been obsolete for a long time. Anyway, that's my thoughts on what I would call a modern fighting revolver. And maybe one day I will dive more into that. But here's the deal, guys. With me doing this job and me doing professional gunfighting for the majority of the income and a lot of that, and trying to stay on top of practicing and training with like modern tools that will save my life, rifle, shotgun, and primarily handgun, because again, that's probably the tool that's going to save my life. This is what I have on me. I've talked about that before when I switched from precision rifle competition to, modern practical handgun competition. There's some crossover, but not a lot with revolvers, and I don't really want to dedicate that much time and energy to training with a fairly obsolescent platform. That's just my honest opinion. Again, revolvers are good for some things, and I don't think they are obsolete for some situations, for some carry situations. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Modern fighting revolvers. I appreciate the question. And I like the appeal of a revolver. Revolvers are beautiful, they're romantic, they're stylish, they're hip. We consider them kind of a modern hipster gun, but none of that stuff. This is gunfighter life. I mean, it's all good to have pretty guns, but nostalgia is not going to save your life. A romantic love that you have for a firearm is not going to save your life. So I'm not saying this is not a place for a modern fighting revolver, but make sure it's based on logic and reason, not, ooh, it's pretty. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Appreciate you. Alright, I'm getting to the point where I could break this in half, or I could keep going. Alright, this question, can I do more episodes on hunting stories? So probably not. If you haven't noticed, unless it's really germane to the topic, I don't tell a lot of hunting stories, guiding stories, when I was a cop stories, war stories, because sadly I think a lot of content has become like The View for gun guys. Like you get a bunch of gun guys sitting around a table, and this is fine, but there's plenty of this content, and I don't want this. There's a reason I do podcasts. I don't want this to turn into The View for tactical guys. And I don't want it to be me talking about how cool I was back in the day when I was slamming somebody's head into the pavement. Or, I did this during the war, I did that during the war, and I had this cool special, and I've had a lot of special assignments, and I did this and I did that, and I tracked this mountain lion for 2 days, and I want to use the experiences and stuff that I've had to give good advice. But I don't want to be the dude that just rambles on about how cool I was back in the day. or this call or this mission, or when I was the commander of a tactical team and I kicked this door down and this person pooped their pants because I'm so cool. Like I don't want to do that. There's plenty of that, and it's just not how I want to do it. I made that decision kind of early on, and I will tell a story here and there if it's really germane to the topic, but I try to focus generally less on me in that and more about what I learned from it, and more importantly what you can glean from it and what good advice I can give you guys. And that's just kind of the way that I want the podcast to be. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and there's plenty of other people doing that. I don't want that to consume the podcast. But I appreciate it. It's a good question. Somebody commented on their carry gun as a Glock 17 Gen 5. I was just practicing with a Glock 17 Gen 5 today. And somebody said, I know you don't like Glocks. And I guess I don't. But Glocks are a fine gun. They're a good gun. They're a perfectly mediocre gun. They go bang, they sling lead in the general right direction. If I had to pick a favorite Glock, it would be the Gen 5, as it stands right now, it would be the Gen 5 Glock 17. Except for the old school Gen 1s, which I probably wouldn't train with one of those and ruin one of those. I'd probably sell it to somebody that would appreciate it and collect it. The Gen 5 Glock 17 is probably my favorite. Got a lot of features, and I did a whole episode on the Glock Gens. It hasn't come out yet. I've been trying to front load episodes when I get busy with the professional gunfighting stuff, but the Gen 5 Glock 17 is a good Glock. Got another carry gun comment, a 48 Gen 5 MOS. And the 48, if you don't know, is like the Glock 19 that went on a diet. It's like the skinny, slimline Glock 19. So not bad. It's slimmer. I would certainly take it over a 43. I would take, as I just alluded to, a 17 over it, but it's a good compromise. I would consider it a step up from a Micro 9, but not quite as good as an actual fighting combat handgun. But yeah, Glock 48 Gen 5 MOS. I'm not a big fan of the MOS mounting system. I've mounted quite a few optics on handguns. I kind of consider it like, how can we put an optic on here doing as little as possible? If you were actually going to use it hard, I would consider taking a regular slide and milling it directly for the optic you wanted to mount on it, like direct mount for a Trijicon RMR or a direct mount for a Delta Point Pro, whatever you're going to run on there. But otherwise, good job. It's again, I would consider that better than a Micro 9, which is what a lot of people carry. Next one, 6.5 Creedmoor. What do I think about the 6.5 Creedmoor, I guess, is the question here. I think it's a good cartridge. Not for the reasons that most people do. I'm not into the super long-range hunting, just because you can't argue with math and time of flight. And I don't care if your gun shoots .00000001 MOA. And you're the best marksman on the planet. You make the guy from, what was that movie, Shooter? You make him drool because you're such a good shooter. I don't care, because you can't argue with math. Whatever the time of flight is. I hunt, and I've hunted a lot of big beasts. I've slain a lot of beasts. Anything from exotic animals to deer, mule deer, whitetail, fallow deer, elk, wolf, bear. Doesn't matter. Here's the thing. Animals move a lot. Unless you get one when it's napping, which I have been blessed to do a time or two, in general, they feed a lot of the day, and they move. They're Oscar Mike. They're on the move. If you have a .00, whatever I said, 1 MOA gun, and you can put that bullet exactly where it's supposed to go, even if that animal is just feeding, and you pull the trigger, and that bullet's going to go, you call the wind exactly right, you even know that it changed speed and direction going through that canyon, and you call the shot perfect. And it's going to go right behind the pocket of the front shoulder, wherever you want to put it, right? You can put it right there. If that elk or that deer takes one step or 2 steps in that time of flight, meaning the time from when you pull that trigger to when the bullet gets there, that's a bad shot. You can't argue with math. I mean, you can, I guess. You can argue with whatever you want till you're blue in the face, but math is math, and that time of flight is time of flight. And with most common cartridges, I don't care what it is, 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 300 Win Mag, the time of flight at 300-400 yards gets to be the point where that animal can move to where that good shot was a bad shot. and I don't like that. For that reason alone, despite everything else, if you want to do long range shooting, fine. If you want to shoot steel, which doesn't move, that's fine. But a living, breathing animal, if it's a survival situation where I'm going to die if I don't kill that animal, then yeah, I'll take that shot. But otherwise, just get a better shot. Use some fieldcraft and stalk up closer. But the 6.5 Creedmoor is good. Even without the long range shooting, it is a good, mild recoiling, easy shooting, very versatile round. I would say in 2024, it's second only to the 308 in its versatility. And ballistically, honestly, even without the long range, I kind of like it better than the 308. Now, I still consider 308 the best go-to all-around round because of economy of scale, and you can move up to heavier bullet weights and things, but the 6.5 Creedmoor is right on its heels. It's a good round. I did a whole episode called The Guide's Rifle, and I have a Kimber Adirondack, which I sadly think they don't make anymore, was my main go-to guiding rifle, in 6.5 Creedmoor. And it's a super lightweight rifle. It's mounted with an LPVO. Again, not a super long range thing, but I've slain many a beast with that thing. It is a good caliber. It's a good rifle. I like the 6.5 Creedmoor. Somebody else's carry gun, a Glock 26 with 147 grain HSTs. That is a good loadout. The 26 I would consider kind of like the 48. Different dimensions, but I would consider it's a subcompact, but I would not consider it a micro 9. I have shot many a small gun, as you might imagine, and I like the 26. That's, you get any smaller than that and you start getting into the micro 9s. And just I would rather go with the 26. One of the big advantages to the 26 is it takes the same magazines, unlike the 48 or the 43 or the skinny Glocks. It takes the same magazines as a 19, as a 17, and that was a common backup gun when I was in law enforcement. I imagine it still is. So it's a good gun, and that's a good loadout. And the 147 grain HSTs, I like 147 grain Winchester Ranger Ts, but I mean, we're splitting hairs. Good load, good loadout. I'm glad that you're taking carry seriously. This next one is a good question, and it is from Jordan. Is a basic PSA AR-15 fine for a first AR to get in the AR world, while saving for better and later training to be better with the platform? Yes, I think so. And now, when you say a basic PSA, now PSA makes a menagerie. Right, they make a crazy amount of AR-15 variants. Assuming you're talking like a basic vanilla 16-inch carbine, sure, yeah, mid-length gas system or carbine length gas system, that's probably the most, probably what you're talking about. If you consider that, in 5.56, yes, I would consider that perfectly fine. Get it, and like you said, get training and train with it. That is a perfectly good first AR, assuming you're not talking about like a 300 Blackout or getting like a 7-inch barrel flashbang in your hands, because they make a lot of models, some way more practical than others. For your first AR, if you're talking a 16-inch carbine, I would say make sure that I would say get one that you can mount a white light on, get one that's easily adaptable to mount a good modern sling on. Most of the ones today are going to have a 1 in 9 to a 1 in 7 twist. You could argue that you got to have a 1 in 7, but 1 in 9, 1 in 8, 1 in 7, all good to go. I would encourage you to spend a little bit more, even if it's a PSA. They do make models with a chrome lined barrel. If you really are going to train with it and shoot it a lot, either get a nitride, which nitride is very good also. Get a nitride or a chrome lined, chrome chamber, chrome bore, chrome lined barrel. That does make a difference. But assuming those things, get it with iron sights, run it with iron sights, get good with iron sights, and then get one that has a flat top upper, even if you're going to mount a carry handle on it, if it's going to be your 1AR for a while. And when you're good with the irons, you might want to consider putting an optic on it, an LPVO or a red dot. Good modern fighting carbine. PSA can make some pretty good stuff. The other route you might want to go, if it's going to be I don't know if it's going to be your one rifle or just your one AR, but you might look at a 20-inch. You can't do CQB with a 20-inch or it's too big. Look, I was a Marine, and I was an urban warfare instructor for the Marine Corps. Marines kick down doors and do CQB stuff, and they're pretty good at it with 20-inch ARs all the time. So if it's going to be your one rifle, like it's your one rifle for now, I'm not saying not to go with a 16-inch, but you may also look at an 18 or a 20-inch barrel. A rifle length gas system has some advantages, even besides the extra velocity from the barrel length, but that's neither here nor there. If you want your kind of generic answer, 16-inch carbine length or mid-length gas system, AR, get it with the ability to mount good modern optics, meaning a flat top upper, but also have iron sights to begin with, get good with the iron sights, white light, sling, and train with it. And yep, I think that is a good to go firing solution for an AR. Honorable mentions, the Ruger ARs. Ruger makes a good baseline AR, as does Smith & Wesson M&P. Not saying they're better than a PSA, they're just other options. You might find something that's on sale or whatever, but both those make good options. And if you want to spend a little bit more, get a Colt 6920. Colt 6920 are kind of the literal standard M4s. So you might look at that. But yeah, the PSA as a first AR, as long as you check those boxes I talked about, nothing wrong with that. All right, that's going to wrap it up, guys. I appreciate those questions. Unless I missed one or forgot one, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the questions. If you didn't know, Spotify, I don't know if you listen on Spotify, but Spotify has a pretty cool feature where I can ask you a question, but I flipped the script on that and said, hey, you guys ask me a question, right? I don't do this podcast for me. I do it for you guys. So if you want to ask a question on Spotify, there's a little thing there. Ask me a question. That's where all these came from. I get questions in other places. If you don't want to wait a month or 2 or 3 on the chance that I might answer your question, you want a more tight-knit community of gunfighters that I'm blessed to be a part of, consider becoming a patron, mostly to support the show, but also, guys ask stuff on there all the time. And maybe I've missed a question here or there, but in general, I answer questions all the time on there. It's not just me. There's a lot of really good guys on there answering questions. There's the Patreon page itself, and then there's the insider chat. You have to have Facebook Messenger, but assuming you have that or you want to get that, there's guys in there chatting all the time about deep theological stuff, Bible verses, obviously a lot of gun stuff on there, but I would be honored and blessed to have you as a patron. If you want to become a patron, there should be a Patreon link in the show notes. I appreciate all your questions. I have done quite a bit of content today. I'm trying to get ahead. Again, the other job's probably going to hit pretty hard and heavy soon. But I appreciate you guys. Consider becoming a patron. I hope that I was able to speak the truth in love, as the Bible says today, and give you good, honest answers. I'm just telling you what you want to hear. I appreciate you guys. Your tactical tip of the day. Been a lot of gun content today, guys. This tactical tip has nothing to do with guns. Beef chorizo. It's a thing. It's delicious. My wife had never had beef chorizo until, I don't know, fairly recently in her adult life. And now it's one of the staples because she loves it. And I recently introduced beef chorizo to our neighbor when I made dinner and invited them. And now they had it tonight for dinner. Beef chorizo. It is delicious. It's really fat heavy. I get a lot of my calories from fat. I've been doing keto paleo long before I ever remember hearing the terms keto or paleo. It's a good fatty meat, beef chorizo. You can also, since it's real fatty, you can mix it, with venison. Really good with venison. Really good with any kind of lean wild game meat. If you're going to make it with eggs, cook them separate. Cook the chorizo and then cook the eggs. Don't scramble it together. It sounds like it would be good, but it sucks up a lot of the flavor and it just doesn't taste as good. You can eat them together, and we do quite often, but cook the chorizo and then cook the eggs and then throw the chorizo on the eggs. But it works really good with any kind of wild game meat, good with turkey, good with venison. It's delicious. It's a thing. Beef chorizo. If you want it to just be a little bit extra, a little bit creme de la creme here, fry just a little bit of onions first. Cook some onions first, and then the chorizo. And then when the chorizo is just about done, throw in a whole bunch of cilantro and cook the cilantro in there so you get your greens. But really good that way. And then add it to whatever other meat you want or eat it on top of whatever you want. Beef chorizo, it's awesome. Your tactical verse of the day. Well, since it plays in, Psalm 103, part of Psalm 103 from New King James. Who satisfies your mouth with good things, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. Amen. My God gives me so many good things. Every breath, every beat of my heart, every thing that I get to eat and enjoy, every embrace with my wife, every time I get to see a happy puppy playing as I did today, every time I'm blessed to speak with you guys and pass on wisdom and knowledge that I've been blessed to survive and get through. I wouldn't have gotten through many sticky situations. I've felt the cold hand of death many times and been delivered from it because God is rich in mercy. He satisfies our mouth with good things. Don't forget, whatever you have that's good is a gift from God. You would not exist apart from Him, and you would not have anything if it wasn't for Him. You are because He made you. You have because He gave you. And you love because He first loved you. Have a blessed day.